Hello, it is that time, as I was saying in the Saturday stroll video. Our Lois McNeil Ace right here. I don't know if that's in focus or not, but I've been waiting for this new growth here to grow roots. And as you can see, we have roots, and I have to be extra careful with those. Thought I would start this because I think it's going to be a 2-day job. First thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to reuse this media, it's only been a year, and I don't water her very heavily, being a Cattleya. She likes that wet dry cycle, so she stays dry more than she stays wet. I have this nice big tub here that I'm going to pour as much media out as possible into, and quite a bit of it is coming, and I'm pouring it out away from the roots just to make sure that, you know, I don't damage those new roots. And I should have a skewer nearby. Let me see if I can get more of this out. Hold on. So I'm just going to take this little bamboo skewer here and see if we can't get more of it out. There will be root damage. I'm pretty sure of that. But look at those. Let me just see if I can show you guys real quick. Look at those beautiful roots. Whoa! Okay, that didn't work well. But look at those beautiful roots inside there as well. Some of them are old. They're the ones that she came with. So when I put her in here, I put some moss at the bottom, but it doesn't hold the media in very well. Like I said, I want to get as much of this kind of shaken out as possible, making sure to not do any root damage on the newer roots. Get those. There we go. Pick it out. And then once I get out as much of these roots as I can, not roots, media as I can, I'm going to soak it for a few hours. See if I can't loosen the roots. I know, I stopped talking there for a second. Loosen the roots a little bit, and maybe the media as well. Because I want to put, possibly, maybe put some burlap at the bottom, as opposed to that moss, to keep most of this media in. And this right here, kind of banging on the sides, is actually working a little bit better than just shaking it. So let's see if we can do a little more on this side too. How do you do this without breaking anything or making a big huge mess? I mean, most of it is going into the pot that I've got up underneath here. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do for now. Yeah. All right, so now I'm going to go soak her. And I'm just going to soak her in what she would have normally gotten watered in, which is just some fertilizer. So that's what I'm going to, you know what, I better soak her in the seaweed, huh? Just in case. Yep, so I'm going to soak her in some seaweed and CalMag. I'll be back in a few hours. Okay, so change of plans. I had to put her in my Vanda bucket because I don't have anything big enough other than this kitchen sink, and I don't really want to soak her in the kitchen sink. So she is sitting in my Vanda bucket, and that is about 450 parts per million of MSU fertilizer. It looks dirty because the bark is still kind of fresh, and it was, you know, the tannins from the bark. But let's just look down here. As you can see, the roots are absorbing some water, and I will leave her in here for a couple of hours just to try to get the ones that are somewhat wrapped around the basket loose, because I do want to move her over. The plan is to cut this old piece off, because originally I thought maybe it was 2 plants in here, and this was 1 plant and this over here was another, but obviously not, because all of her growth is coming that way. So I'm going to cut all of these smaller growths off, but I want to move her closer to the middle because cutting this might activate this side to grow as well. And as you can tell, she is going to be a big girl, and hopefully I don't set her back too much by doing that. Now, when I repotted her into this, again, she had a few roots, and as you can see, in a year she's really filled up this basket. So I'm not real worried about it, but let me put it right there. There we go. So it's not leaning too much. And I was careful not to let the new roots touch the water because I don't want that fertilizer to burn them. A few hours later, as they say, she's been soaking probably, I'm gonna say maybe 4 hours, but all of the roots that were on the pot are pretty much loosened. This one has wrapped around and I can't find the end, so it will be a casualty, unfortunately. I do have my small fiskars as well as my large fiskars, wherever that one went. That's loose. I'm just going to go around the pot and, well, the basket, and any that are like this one looped in as well will also be a casualty. She has a little kink right there. And I believe, nope, we have one more, and I see where that root is. Let's see. And I have the gloves on because I think wet bark is just, eeks. You know what, let me grab a different pot to put the wet bark in, because I have my dry bark over here that we took out earlier. And this ends up taking a little bit. I will pause it and then come back. But let's see if we can get her out. Oh, wait. There's one more I have to cut. And I did get my little tray thing that I have, because it'll help catch any excess. And then this way we can reuse it. Stay away from, I'm going to try by this old part that I want to take it from anyway. And like I said, there will be root damage, hopefully minimal, but some of these roots have grown into the basket itself in here. Okay, here we go. Let's see, she's loose, except for right there where she's grown into the basket. Okay, let's see. Where are we stuck? I see, right here. Stuck on that one, so let me cut there. And then, where else are we stuck? Stuck here, where, again, it's grown into the basket. Not too much root damage, I don't think, but probably more than I'd like. And she does have plenty to go with here. Let's see. Where are we stuck? You know what? I'm gonna hold her at these back bulbs here. And there she comes. Up, there she is. There she is. Now I will, so when I repotted her, I didn't take the old media off of this older part. So I guess I better do that now. Let me do this. And I don't think I need the moss in there anymore, but I will need to take all of these roots out if I'm going to reuse the media. Let me move that over here for a second. Let's take care of what we're not keeping first. So this is obviously the old part of the plant, but she has lots of roots that I can still manage to use. Because, oh, okay, where's that new, there's the new roots over there. So, see if I can loosen some of the wrapped roots here and see how many of those are even viable and if it's worth the time. Because if not, I'm just going to cut. Plus, I need to get to the rhizome so I can see what we're working with. Now this is all media right here because it's from the older part that I'm not using, and because there is a difference in how it looks. Like this is the media that she's been growing in, and this is the media that she came with, although it is still quite firm. Let's see, and these roots, guys, are still fairly good. I mean, she does have a few that need to be cut, but like I said, I want to get to that rhizome first so I know where to cut as opposed to what to cut. Find out where to cut first, and then we'll figure out what to cut. Okay, there's, and all of the roots are still intact. And Loki is alarming for something, I don't know. So sitting with my back to the window, so there could be someone just walking by, minding their business, and he feels like they're a little too close to the house. That could be it. Or he just got a bug in his behind and decided he wanted to bark. With him, you just never know. You never know. He's a little bit of a nervous dog, so he does tend to bark sometimes when it's not necessary. But we love him anyway. He's my little supervisor. Normally he's sitting around watching what I'm doing, making sure I'm doing it right, but we just went and got food while I was letting this soak, and, well, you know how puppies are. They think if you have food, then you have to share it with them. We do occasionally, not very often, but we do occasionally share our food with our puppers. It's not the best thing, but you know what? You only live once, right? All right, I am slowly getting to this wrapped mess here. And almost, I think, to the rhizome. Not too worried about right there, but here. Because where I'd like to cut, I have to be able to see, right? So there. Yeah, so see, this is what I want to cut off. So I'm wondering if I just, watch those roots, Trish. You're getting a little ahead of yourself. Anybody else do that? Start getting ahead of themselves when they see, when the eye on the prize, and then forget the other prize that they need to keep their eyes on. And I am going to try to keep as many roots as possible. You know, these might actually just tear off. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so that one came right off. And then, these are going to be easy to cut off. So I'm going to lean her here because I don't, again, want to damage any of the roots. Take my nice big fat secateurs here. Also fiskars, and let's get around these roots. Let's see if I can get around the roots without damaging them. Okay, we're going to go right in here, and hopefully I have the hand strength to do this. There we go. And cut. And of course I am looking for, oh, that's a nice woody rhizome. Let me show y'all real quick. Where'd I cut it? Right here. That's where I cut it. See? Right here. No sign of the purple. We like that. Set that off to the side. And now I'm going to go through, and I am going to, make sure I have all of the roots that initially were cut, get them off. And I'm not going to worry too much on cleaning up the roots, because almost all of these roots, there's maybe one or two that aren't very good, and I'll just pull the velamen off as opposed to just trying to figure out where that root ends in this gaggle of roots here. Look at that. That's not too shabby for a year. Let's lay her this way so I'm not messing with that rhizome. And then we're going to take our bowl here, and I'm going to put the wet media that just fell out of her when I was taking her out, minus the styrofoam. And if I end up grabbing some of the older media, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like I said, it's still pretty firm, so not too worried about, make sure I don't put any of the roots in there though. And I don't want any of the styrofoam pieces. All right, now let's dig in here, and we're gonna get all that in there. And if the moss ends up getting mixed in, not a big deal. I think she'll be all right because she was used to having that moss at the bottom anyway. Now, if it's a lot, obviously I'll take it out, but I'll probably place it at the bottom. Now, let me get all these roots. See, this is what was holding her in. She was stuck, and that root is growing into the actual basket to the side. Let me get those out, much of the organic media out as I can, so when it dies, it doesn't degrade the basket too much. But I gotta tell you, I love this basket. And the Vanda Calmar is growing really well outside. And if I'm saying that wrong, Y'all correct me down in the comments. It's C-A-L-M-A-R-E, I believe. I don't think there's an I in it. Save as much of this as possible. What I'm going to do in lieu of, you know what? Let's put you right here. There's the new roots. Let me move all this out of the way here. I don't have enough space. I probably do, just not. It's late in the day and I'm getting a little tired. I'm sure all of you can relate to that. Start a project and you want to finish it in one day. Probably should have done this part tomorrow, but I wanted to go ahead and get it done, get her back in her home. So I have other plans for tomorrow and this was not on it, so here we are. All right, there's that. As I was saying, excuse me, in lieu of the moss, I cut a piece of just burlap and I'm going to just set it in, and then I'm going to cut off the excess once I get her in the pot. Let's see. If I can finagle this. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the moss, most of the moss part down at the bottom. This way it's not really affecting her roots too much. Whoop, left a root in there. Okay, make sure there's no more root pieces, and I'm just gonna tuck that right here. Tuck that one right there, get it out of the way. And all I'm doing is just tucking it into the side so it doesn't decide to come back out. But I think this will be a better holder to keep the media from falling out than the moss, because the moss was also kind of coming through. So I don't know, let's see. And if you are squeamish about healthy roots getting cut, I suggest you close your eyes and I will let you know when I'm done. All right, open your eyes. It does not look like it is a branching root system. However, her roots do stop and then they start and they stop and they start. So she should be okay. I just cut off the scraggly ones. And let me make sure that that is there. And then I'm just going to put some of the mycorrhizal fungi on top of the wet media that's in there so it can go ahead and activate. And then we'll put a little bit of the dry on top. And I am going to try and position her where she is in the center. And I am going to stand up for this because I just feel like I get a better view of what I'm doing here. Let's see. Put there and here. And then tuck her in nicely. Tuck that one down nicely. And I believe we are golden. Now just fill her in. And I'm using the wet media first just because it's here in my face. No particular other reason. Making sure that I do get media up under her, since when I set her in there, there wasn't a lot. All right, what other items do you guys use to keep media from falling out of the baskets? I know there's cocoa fiber. I'm using burlap. I did use moss as well. I'm trying to think what else there might be. I guess there's like, I don't know, maybe you can use like plant paper. But this way too, with the burlap, the roots, if they want to, can grow through that burlap and back into the basket like it was. All right, so I've used all of the wet. Now let's start putting in the dry. Before I forget, let me put in some slow release fertilizer. And I'll just put in about 10 beads. Because she is pretty vigorous. And like I said, now that I've cut that side, I did kind of place her in the center, and she might actually activate on the other side since we cut it. That is one of the nice things about cattleyas, is they will do that occasionally. So let me just put some all around, and then we'll maneuver it around. And then we'll just keep an eye on her and make sure she doesn't start going downhill on me. I don't think she will. She's got plenty of roots. Even if she drops some of them, she had plenty of them. She's a nice, healthy orchid. has been since I got her. I've not had any issues with the first repot. And like I said, I just took the media she was in that first repot and just put that pot in here and then filled her up. But I was thinking there might be 2, so that's why I set her the way I did. If I'd have known it was only 1, I would have probably done it a little differently. Now let me see if it'll settle. Oh, it does settle. Sweet. Almost like patting a pot, and I don't have to worry about the media falling out of the bottom and the sides because we've got our handy dandy little burlap here. This is a wonderful idea. I'm glad I thought of it. Sometimes I have some good ideas, sometimes I don't. And let's see. Put that somewhere where it'll be, there we go. I have to get that stake where it's a little more secure. All right, we got a big hole right here. This is just falling right on down. So, and most of this, guys, was large perlite and large bark. That is all she was in. That's what she's going right back in. Like I said, I'm using the same media because it wasn't that old, and it's actually not that broken down. So I think we're safe for at least another, I'm going to say 2 years. How's that? Hopefully I don't have to repeat this process. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing if I did have to repeat the process in a year. That just means that she's just really doing her thing and growing and getting her groove on. Let's see. All right. There we go. A little bit more. How is it that I took all of this out of this basket? The burlap does not take up that much space, and yet here we are with extra media. That is unexplainable because I've got media in the middle. Because I'm actually also just putting it between the roots here to help brace. So I'm not sure why I ended up with extra when, one, she has more space, cut off some of her roots. Who knows? Who am I to question? Maybe I'm not meant to know. And, knock on wood, I have not damaged any of the new roots yet. I will show you guys. I say yet because I'm not done, so there's still that possibility. But as of right now, all of those new roots are still intact. And they're right at the media where they were previously. I'm trying to remember that some of these roots were exposed coming out, so I don't want to cover them up too much and change what environment they were used to being in. And just cover that up. There we go. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, we have us, I would say a repot, but really it's a reposition. It's not even a repot, similar to what we did to peaches. Now all that there is left to do is cut the burlap, but before we cut the burlap, the roots are all intact. Very proud of myself, very proud of myself. Hold on, my scissors are right over here. So, now, just find a place to start. There we go. And then I'm just going to leave it all kind of on the edge right here. This way it doesn't start falling out the side, you know, and making a mess like it did before. I could actually, I guess, leave it on here. But here we are. I've already started because I was thinking, well, maybe I could just leave it on here and loop it in here. But I've already started cutting it now. Should have thought about that before. All right, give me just a second. I'm almost done. And I'll probably fast forward over this part. All right, I probably want to cut that back just a little bit more. There we go. All right, that is good enough. A little bit more, as she says, that is good enough. Just a little bit more to hold that back. And a little bit on this side to hold that one back. All right, well now she's kind of centered. And she can just go haywire with growth now. You hear that, Lois? You can go cray-cray with your growing now. I don't mind at all. I think, too, next year I'm going to grow her outside because I can put a wire hanger on here and hang her up. I may grow her outside next year. We just have to wait and see what I decide next year. Grasshoppers are getting to my ladies this year, but not as bad as last year, like I said earlier in the video. Well, let me know what you think about my concoction I made here, and I have decided we are going to just take this one off the mount and put her on a new mount, but there is a caveat. I have decided I'm going to wait until this new growth at least starts growing roots. So I am going to do that. I will just have to deal with having to water her in the morning and at night until that time. With that, guys, you have a beautiful rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next one.